Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me? RJ, can you hear me? RJ, can you hear me? Hi, Jerome.
Hi, Sivam. How are you doing? How are you doing?
Hello, RJ, can you hear me?
You hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Sivam, hear you okay?
Okay.
I hear you too.
All right, RJ, you can start. Give me 1 second.
I'm on my tablet. So we're
That's
running
fine.
with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
So I just start speaking. We're ready to go, right?
Yep. Already live.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this celebration of Voice of Men 360's International Observance for International Men's Day. This one is starting November 13th and running through.
RJ,
Yeah.
if you just move your that's fine now.
I'm okay, but I'm behind, so I'm trying to do production and get set up here.
That's fine. Now it's okay. Yeah, because we couldn't see your face. That's all. It's okay now.
Okay, I understand that, but I'm trying to get set up queued again as well.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
So we're going to begin again. We were set to begin at 10 o'clock. We had some technical difficulties, as we usually do. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our international observance, our week-long observance here for International Men's Day, which is represented on November 19th every year. This year, our topic for International Men's Day is creating safer environments. And I love that topic. And we're going to get to discuss that topic throughout the week as we have different presentations from our various team members here at Voice of Men 360. So welcome once again. I'm RJ Horner, Vice President for Voice of Men 360. And Voice of Men 360 is a not-for-profit organization founded in 2020 based in Toronto, Canada. Voice of Men 360 was born out of seeing tremendous need and stepping up to help support our men and boys overcome their life challenges. We're part of International Men's Day, and International Men's Day has been serving for over 21 years now, and is now represented in 90 countries around the world who join together to do various activities around the world. International Men's Day follows in 6 pillars, and we follow in those same pillars here. Those 6 pillars represent the overall well-being of men and boys. So again, we're inviting you out to this presentation for International Men's Day. It begins today, this Saturday morning, November 13th at 10 a.m., where we're going to bring you different presentations of vital interest to the world at large, but mainly to men out there, how it is going to concern our men, what we can do to improve our men's health, our men's well-being, and to help create safer environments for our men moving forward. So we have some exciting program available throughout this week, where each day, one of us will bring 90 minutes to the table where we'll discuss a topic of interest to us as individuals, but also a topic that's going to be of value and of interest to men. And we're going to help our men learn and grow from this experience and help represent to create better men, to create better families, to create better environments for our world at large. I'm not sure who's backstage, but I'm going to introduce the programming that we have going on. And then maybe if Sivam, if we have anybody there, we can introduce them as I introduce the program. If you can let me know they're here.
You can actually start with the letter from Prime Minister.
Oh yes, we have a special notice today. You see, we reached out to our generous representatives, our government officials, and to see if they would be interested in taking part or being involved in our presentation today. So we did get notice back from our Prime Minister. So we're pleased to have gotten note from our Prime Minister, and I'm going to read that for you today. So, a statement by the Prime Minister of Canada. It is with great pleasure that I extend my warmest greetings to everyone taking part in the second observance of International Men's Day celebration hosted by Voice of Men 360 in partnership with International Men's Day. Between November 13th and November 19th, Zoom events will be held and geared towards the empowerment of men and boys, focusing on areas such as their experiences, challenges, and programs, all with the aim of making a more meaningful contribution to society. The COVID-19 pandemic has made planning and hosting events such especially difficult, and I would like to thank the dedicated organizers for making this event possible. Please accept my wishes for an enjoyable and measurable celebration. And it's signed Justin Trudeau, Ottawa, 2021. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Prime Minister, for acknowledging us and the efforts that we're putting forward. It is certainly of interest that we have gotten the attention of our esteemed representatives. So thank you for taking note, and thank you for acknowledging the great work that we're doing here in Voice of Men 360 and our representation with International Men's Day. That is very important. International Men's Day and the 6 pillars and what they represent have fueled the passion and the what we have created here in Voice of Men 360. So we thank everybody for that. In fact, I do know somebody is backstage, and if I could, Sivam, bring out the founder of International Men's Day, Dr. Jerome Tilak Singh. Dr. Jerome, thank you for joining us this morning
Thank you very much.
Our first day for International Men's Day observance.
Thank you very much, RJ, for that introduction. And I want to say congratulations to Voice of Men 360 for, receiving this letter, this correspondence from the Prime Minister. It says a lot. It speaks volumes. And I personally want to commend you all, for the good work you all have been doing, not just in Canada, but across the world, in enlightening others, educating others, empowering men, So I want to congratulate you all, your organization.
Thank you for that. again, it comes from your inspiration. Um, it starts by, we always say it starts by having a voice and having a conversation. You started this conversation many, many moons ago. Tell us a little bit about it and what was your purpose in starting it up in the first place?
I started it about more than 2 decades ago, almost 21 years ago, and I started it for two reasons. On the 19th of November, 1989, my football team or soccer team lost 1-0 to the United States, and that was a crucial World Cup qualifying game. And during that time, there was a buildup of unity. Their barriers were transcended, gender barriers, class, ethnicity, even people who in the rural and urban areas came together. And I felt this unity, I wish, it could continue, and I wanted to see it within the men's movement. And the second reason is that the 19th of November, 1989 is my dad's birthday, and he's still alive, and he was a role model for me and my family, my community. And I wanted to send a message to families across the world, to young boys, to men, that you could look within your family, a grandfather, an uncle, an older brother, a good teacher in your school could be that positive male role model. So these are the two main reasons. The second one is personal, it's close to my heart, and I wanted people to know they don't have to look in the cinema, they don't have to look in the sporting arena for a role model, right within your family, and you all at Voice of Men 360 are promoting these positive male role models.
Absolutely. And again, we say that it comes from the representation of what you not decided, but felt was a representation of men and boys, which we call the six pillars. Um, and I can't pull any up in front of me, but I mean, these are, again, like I say, a good representation of men and what we expect our men to be. Could you tell us a little bit about the six pillars?
The six pillars were designed to ensure that International Men's Day is all inclusive. You know, um, and the reason being, you would know, RJ, and your viewers, that the men's movement is so diverse. There's a broad spectrum of masculinities, and we live in a world now where we need more tolerance. So the six pillars deals with health, it deals with emotional, it deals with spiritual well-being, it deals with improving gender relations. So when it was designed, I conceptualized a world that would be able to change, attempt to make a difference. When I was in my 20s, like so many young people, we are idealists in thinking, we are utopian in thinking, and I wanted to create a world where there'll be more peace, there'll be more harmony. I'm hoping that, these six pillars could help chip away or erode, eliminate some of the social problems we have, and these problems are many, including poverty, unemployment, racism, sexism.
Mhm. Absolutely. And many of these problems are universal too, and that's what the six pillars are so amazing at
Actually, I
representing.
also
Is
want
that
to mention that
of course there are signal issues, so please bear with us. I think Dr. Tilak Singh is still in the background. But again, these six pillars are so vital to men and boys. The one I love the most, again, men's work. We don't want to be mistaken as sexist, as um, but so we're creating gender equality, better families, and gender equality. Um, so that's the one I love the most. Dr. Tilak Singh, are you still with us?
Yeah. Jerome, can you hear us?
RJ, to
So
add
he
to
does.
that,
Please, sir.
every year a theme that would be more appropriate and relevant for society. And the theme this year is, creating a safer environment, promoting safer environments. And that is so important, especially where amidst this pandemic, we have frontline workers who are, getting their lives, and some have sacrificed their lives, some have died within the fight. A safer environment also includes, some persons we often don't recognize, like fishermen who go out there to earn a living. And I've also mentioned in a few discussions that the safe environment, you also have to mention people who are in refugee camps, people who are fleeing their environments, that are hostile, also, need to be in a safe environment. So these are some topics that come to mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. You helped us think globally. You do help us think globally rather than regionally, which we tend to do. So I do thank you for that, Dr. Tilak Singh. Absolutely. I'm going to go.
Dave is
Go
here.
ahead,
Sorry.
Stephen. I know Dave's here. I'll get to Dave as I run through the program. Let me run through the program. Dave is second on the program. I get to lead the program off today, right after this, where I get to talk about safe spaces at work, where it's really a discussion on health and safety and mental health in the workplace. So I'm going to love that discussion. Join us for that one right after this, 10:30 a.m. And then we move on to our program tomorrow, where we're bringing you global barriers of well-being experienced by immigrant male youth. That takes place tomorrow, Sunday, November 14th, 12 to 1:30 p.m. All of our times are on Eastern time. Again, we're in Toronto, Canada. So we are broadcasting in Eastern time. So please join us tomorrow for host Mathusa Kalaminan. She's the host and youth coordinator here at Voice of Men 360. So again, global barriers of well-being experienced by immigrant male youth. And then on Monday, November 15th, 8 to 9:30, I'm going to get our host to introduce that program. So host, facilitator, and advisor here at Voice of Men 360, Dave Rogers. Dave, are you there?
I am.
Sivam, you have to bring, there we go.
Yeah.
So Dave, you're on Monday, early morning, Monday morning. You brought a great program to us. Tell us a little bit about that.
First of all, thank you very much, RJ. Congratulations to the team. And thank you for all of our listeners and people who are committed to supporting and encouraging men to be the best edition of themselves. On Monday morning, 8 a.m., a nice start up and kickoff for the week. It's a session on trauma and transgenerational trauma. And we're going to start off with some friends in the islands of St. Martin. Dr. Nicole will be joining us for a discussion. And then we're going to go to Perth, Australia, where we have a gentleman from New Zealand who has been working with sound healing and has created these wonderful gongs that allow men to express their frustration, their anger, their overwhelm in ways that are creative, innovative, and releasing, and thereby being able to have a greater awareness of trauma and possibly releasing it. We'll then go to Prague, where we have Dr. Mark Jones to have a discussion about his favorite 5 ways to assist men with healing and releasing traumas. And right now it's been funny because we've been putting together the program and there's people from the States, there's people from Singapore that want to add a comment or a prayer or a wish, a technique that might assist men in engaging trauma differently, perhaps even releasing it so that they can move from that state of disempowerment to that state of service. Something I have a feeling, RJ, you've really been able to connect with men, experience their frustrations, their perhaps even hostilities, and find that safe space where they can connect to themselves, release some of the traumas, and come out the other side a person of service. And so it's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how the technology dances with us on Monday morning. And throughout the week, we'll also be engaging in other programs. On Tuesday, we'll be talking with authors, and I'll be happy to share one of my books called Get 2020 Vision, which talks about men's mental health. And then we'll go throughout the week, and we'll be getting back together, I guess, on Friday to celebrate and to have a debrief where all of the participants, the guests, the hosts can come together and share some of their insights that they receive from the week, and also some of the prayers or blessings that we might express as we all move forward. A fantastic message today from the Prime Minister. I'm really happy that Sivam and the team have gone out and talked to our representatives, because shifting from toxic masculinity to uplifting positive masculinity is a journey for all of us. It has such a widespread ripple effect that if we can make a difference in one man's life, help them in ways to connect to their sacred remembrance of their divinity, we will make a difference. And that's what I'm really excited to hear your obsession today, RJ. Thank you so much for your leadership throughout, and have a great day today. And thank you so much for all the support you do as we move through the whole week.
Dave, thank you so much. Again, that's Dave Rogers. He is a valued advisor here at Voice of Men 360. So we thank you for that. Again, and Dave, you know what? I didn't invite you to the panel, but as a member of our team and as a supporter and an advocate of mental health, you're welcome to stick around and participate in the discussion if you're available. So please stick around for that. And thank you for your generous comments. But again, let's move on with the program, because we got a whole week of presentations. So Dave got to deliver his exciting presentation. I get to tell you about the rest of them. Tuesday, that's when Dave talked about he's going to join us for the Authors Circle, November 16th, 1 to 2:30 p.m. That's going to be by another of our team members and host Joe Grow. So please join us for that. That's Authors Circle. And Authors Circle is a new program that we're implementing here in Voice of Men 360. So please look out for more of that, where we represent great authors who have some great advice and guidance for men out there. So again, that's Tuesday, November 16th, 1 to 2:30 p.m. And that's Authors Circle. Then we move on to day 4, Wednesday, November 17th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. where Indigenous men's self-care and well-being. That's by another of our treasured team members and our Indigenous community coordinator, Christy White. And we want to thank Christy White for all of her support in spearheading the Indigenous drive for families. That was quite a success, and we want to thank all the supporters and everyone for putting that together. Sivam, our leader, and other people who have been involved in that, because we did get a lot of valuable goods and donations for our Indigenous families. So thank you for everybody who contributed and participated in that. But again, that was because Christy White is hosting her program Wednesday, November 17th, 7 to 8:30 p.m., where Indigenous men's self-care and well-being. So please join Christy White for that one on Wednesday. Day 5 is Thursday, November 18th, where 10 to 11:30 a.m. Exploring American boys' challenges and successes in schools. That one is a panel of collective information. Again, much like Dave's doing, a collection of people from around the world. It is hosted by the co-founder of Healthy Masculine Initiative, Dr. Andrew Smiler. So please join him Thursday, November 18th, 10 to 11:30, to talk about exploring American boys' challenges and successes in schools. And then Friday, that is International Men's Day 2021, Friday, November 19th. Where we've been working on putting all this together. And So the presentation begins at 7 to 8:30 p.m., where we discuss men with dreams and challenges. That's hosted again by our own team member and valued advisor, Tolu Adeosun. So please join us for that. And again, that's 7 to 8:30 p.m. November 19th. But then join us, continue to join us. Come out and join us on the last day for our celebration, our recognition. We're going to have a meet and greet. Hopefully, we'll get as many of the presenters out on that evening as possible and have a little gathering and a discussion around men's work and the work that we have been doing thus far, at least within Voice of Men 360. So that's our program for the next 7 days. We thank you for joining us for that. We look forward to the exciting presentations. You heard from Dave and myself, who are putting on a couple of the presentations. I wish a couple of more of our team members could have been here, but again, we have some great presentations. You've met Dr. Jerome, founder of International Men's Day, and why this mission is so important to him and to the global society that we're working to create safer environments for. So again, that is our topic for this International Men's Day 2021, creating safer environments. So once again, I thank you. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of Voice of Men 360 and all of the valuable work we're doing. We were on a mission to increase the voice, to increase the awareness, to increase the numbers of members and the shares and the value that we're getting. I'm not sure how we've done on that. Sivam, can you give us an update? How many members are we up to now?
2,400 though.
2,400. So we did get a bit of growth during this drive initiative. Certainly not the numbers we were hoping for, but we set a goal and we started reaching for the goal. We started sharing the message. We continue to share the message here in Voice of Men 360. We invite you to do the same. We have some valuable presentations coming up this week. We've shared the links. Please go to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Voice of Men 360. And you'll find those banners out there. Go out there and share them. If you think it's going to be of value to you or to a friend or to a loved one or to a close, coworker or some confidant, let them know about the presentation coming up. Let them know how it may help. Again, share it out there. That's what we're working, is to share that voice to help talk about the great work that's going on to help create better men, to create better environment, or to create better societies, which creates better environments. So thank you. That is our introduction for International Men's Day, for our week-long observance here with Voice of Men 360 for International Men's Day 2021, where our topic again is creating safer environments. Thanks, and have a great day for that one. But I am going to go on now to my own presentation. Happy to invite everybody to that, where again, our topic here at International Men's Day 2021 is creating safer environments. And as a matter of creating safer environments, my topic is safe spaces at work. Now, that means twofold to me. Of course, we are talking about your workplace, what goes on at your place, where you work. We are talking about that environment. We're talking about creating a better workplace. But we're also talking about occupational health and safety. And what it means for people out there. And we're going to talk about how it works. We're going to talk about how to put it to work. Right now, in Canada, there is new regulations with joint health and safety. So there are tens of thousands and possibly hundreds of thousands of new joint health and safety members. Some of them are certified at this point or getting certified. Others are still waiting certification. So there are many people out there who don't know what health and safety is all about. they don't know, even though they may have that representation, they don't know what health and safety. Actually, Sivam, can you put that one back up again for a moment? They don't know what health and safety is all about. So today we are going to carry on that topic. I'll introduce my guests in a minute, but we're going to talk about joint health and safety. What does it mean to you? Again, you're new in the workplace. You may not know. So what does it mean to you? And then again, our topic is occupational health and safety. So we've got, what are the rules? What are the role that you play? What does your company play? And what are the responsibilities that each of them holds? And then creating a responsible, healthy workplace. That's not just you, the worker, who has to figure out how to, make a safe environment despite your employer who's trying to make you work in unsafe manners. Things don't work that way anymore. And now there's rights, rules, and responsibilities that each of you hold to this health and safety and how it works. And then we're going to give you some tools, tips, and some links on how to use health and safety and your joint health and safety. And we're talking to not just the employee and the worker out there, but small business owners and new CEOs who have to implement this in their workplace. And how can we work together with your employees to create that safety culture? So really, that's our discussion today. And Siddham, you can take that down for me. Thank you. And if you can bring on our guests, because I've brought a short panel out for you today. Two of them are joining us live. We will have a presentation from a recorded interview on mental health in the workplace. But today I brought out my guests. First, Owen Goodwin. He's a unit chair at United Steelworkers, Local 2009. He's an occupational health and safety co-chair, mental health advocate, and a workers' rights advocate. Owen, thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Absolutely. And then we also have Ed Kent. He is a health, safety, and environment coordinator at the United Steelworkers District 3. He's got 30 plus years of experience with health and safety, so he's going to bring that discussion to the table. Thank you, Ed, for joining us this morning.
Yes, thank you, and pleasure to be here, and good morning to everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming out, gentlemen, and joining this discussion. And then we will have a recorded interview from Stephen Whitton. He is the co-founder and host at Men Able, and he is, again, another mental health advocate from across the bay, we say, in merry old England. So we had a great discussion on mental health in the workplace. And then, gentlemen, I'll invite you, once we put that presentation on later after our discussions, you can stick around and we'll carry on a discussion about mental health in the workplace, like what we've listened to in our interview. So that's kind of how our show will go today. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. This has been awesome. So I got to introduce our guests to you a little bit, but let's get to know them. So I will start with, I only because I know him a little bit more. Owen Goodwin, again, health and safety. What does it mean to you? Talk a little bit about yourself and why it's so important to you.
It wasn't really that important to me until 2013 when I came very, very close to not coming home from work one day. I was working in the steel distribution center that I currently still work in, and I was lifting up plates of steel with a crane and plate hooks, and the hooks popped out from under the load, and one hit me right in the face. The specialist I went to said the force of the impact was the equivalent to taking a full-size sledgehammer, swinging it like a baseball bat, and then putting your face in the way. So I had a very long recovery that I'm still going through now. How many years later? 8 years later. It's been a road. There's a lot more, and this kind of alludes to what you're going to talk about later on with Stephen. There's a lot more to coming back from a major injury than just the physical part of the injuries. I have lots of physical injuries that I'll have for the rest of my life. But the hardest part was the mental health aspect of coming back from a major workplace injury and the struggles that arise out of that. So after I was back on my feet and could walk again, could talk again, after I learned how to do all that all over again, that's when I really got involved in health and safety through my union. And then out of that, becoming an activist in that, it was just a natural move to join as a union rep as well. So that's currently what I do. I'm a union rep and a health and safety co-chair.
Got you. Yeah. And like I said, there are so many health and safety people out there right now. You took it up because of, well, I mean, maybe you almost lost your life, like that's what it sounds like. And then you had a realization for the value of creating a safer environment. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. It's kind of twofold though. There's a lot of members, there's a lot of workers who don't know their rights and don't think it's that important until something like this happens. And there's a lot of people that don't know how to speak up for themselves in the workplace. If your employer asks you to do something that you think is unsafe, you have a right to say no, at least in British Columbia, and not do that work until it's deemed safe. You also everybody should be looking at their work before they do it and coming to that realization whether it's going to hurt you or not. There are some risks that come with the jobs that you do. If you're a policeman, you may have to be in some dangerous situations. If you're working in office, believe it or not, there's some dangerous situations in office if filing cabinets aren't secured to walls and everything else. So you really need to look at the job that you do and think, is this job going to hurt me? Or is there a potential for it to hurt me? And if there is, then we need to look at how to reduce that risk. But that's the message that gets lost along the ways. And that's why I do it. That's why I speak up, and that's why I talk to a lot of people, and that's why I joined health and safety, to try to keep everybody safe at work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because let's face it, up until, let's say, the last 5 years or so, where it's really become prevalent about the loss of life and the value of injury and maybe even, the effect of mental health in the workplace. Prior to that, it wasn't something we worried about. We didn't worry about, oh, I have this hazard to deal with or that hazard. It was more about, oh, we've had this injury happen. How do we fix that? Oh, this person got hit by this. We need to remove this, right? So it's really more of a reactive process. But now we have health and safety regulations and new mandates in Canada, at least, and so we have different protocols to not be reactive but proactive. We're to put in place systems to find those hazards that are affecting our job and potentially remove them if we can, eliminate them or control them if we're able, and certainly make people aware of those hazards. Like you said, if you're a police officer, you know that you're going to have to deal with your firearm, right? Which creates its own set of hazards. You're going to deal with criminal element that you're going to have to manage, and that creates its own set of hazards that come as part of the duties that you're going to have to perform. And then it's training them how to handle these hazards in a safe and effective manner. That is what health and safety is all about. And so I brought that to the table. Like I said, I let you out there, that's what health and safety really is. And again, we have another expert who have maybe 6 years experience in health and safety myself. You said, Owen, you have about 8. Ken, you have 30, or Ed, sorry, you have about 30 plus years in health and safety experience. Why did you get started in health and safety, first of all? And then talk about some of the experiences that have.
Well, my role initially, I started working in a sawmill. It was a unionized sawmill. It was IWA at the time, which then eventually merged with steelworkers. But I was at work. There was an incident at the workplace. A welder was struck by a forklift, run over, and died as a result of his injuries. It died there at the scene that day. I was on shift that day. I was working that day. So it led me, I'd only been at the mill a fairly short period of time. I don't quite remember how long, but it was as a result of that accident, wanting to know, I'd heard that there was health and safety committee at the workplace, but I didn't know what they did. I didn't know really who the members were. I didn't know what their role was. But after this incident, I was compelled to, ask those questions. What is health and safety? What do we do? What's our role? How do we ensure that something that happened that day never occurs again? This was a gentleman that was in his 40s, married, children, a spouse, married with children. And, he came to work that day, full intent on doing his job and going home at the end of the day. And some tragic circumstances occurred, and it cost him his life. And so that was how I became involved with health and safety. I didn't know anything about it. I knew there was a health and safety committee, but what they did, what their role, but it was, how do I ensure going forward that what occurred that day doesn't occur again? And that was a very
Hey, go ahead, please.
Yes. So I'm getting some real feedback there. Sorry. So it was a tragic event, and that was my catalyst to become involved, and as a result of that, I became a safety rep, and became the chair of the committee at my workplace, and filled many roles along the way. I held roles with my local union as well, not just my mill, but with my local as well. And I received a tremendous amount of training paid for by the IWA at the time, and then steelworkers as well. So many different types of training courses. And eventually, in 2019, the position that I hold now, the gentleman that held it before me retired, and I put my name in, and I've taken on this role for District 3 of Western Canada. So Manitoba, BC, and the Yukon, Nunavut, and Northwest Territories are all part of District 3. So I have taken on that role since then. And it's a vital role. I hear Owen's story a lot, right? My own story, something tragic, something in that situation, someone lost their life. In Owen's situation, suffered injuries that has affected him for probably the remainder of his life. And so how do we do a better job to ensure that those things don't happen?
Absolutely. Listen, you know what? It hits home too. You know what? You talk about Owen, it sounds like you guys are good friends, and you know each other well. When it comes personal, my wife is experiencing, what she's been told is a minor concussion. And, some days what happened was there was a gate that she was supposed to close, and the chain fell off the gate. She had to go back and get the chain. The gate was closing back on the off, and sent her off into the bushes, hit her and sent her off into the bushes. She didn't think she experienced any pain, but of course, days later, she's got pressure in her head, so she got a mild concussion. But I mean, now it's been, weeks, and she can spend sometimes 2-3 hours in front of a computer. So these things, and I mean, she's an office worker. She's not a physical employee, right? She's not lugging steel or trying to manage steel or big equipment. She's looking at a computer, and she can't manage that. So imagine people who are trying to manage big construction or manage heavy equipment, how that affects their being, first of all. And we'll talk about this later, Owen, because you mentioned it. And we don't discuss this with Stephen, so you have a different aspect on it, is that there's more to the physical than coming back to work, right? So thank you for bringing that to the table. Your vast experiences is gentlemen, we have some valuable information that people don't have out there. Again, there are so many new health and safety reps right now. Okay, you know what? Most of them by this point, because again, I think they implemented this in January, February. Most of them have been mandated to be trained at this point, unless the reps have not been appointed. But there are so many people who are overwhelmed. They don't understand what health and safety is or what their responsibility is. So, I mean, I've described what health and safety is. It's really a system put in place to be proactive rather than reactive. And so we created these joint health and safety, well, the government mandates over time have created joint health and safety committees where management, ownership, and the worker element, the employee base, get together to create a committee to monitor safety, to go out there and have proactive inspections. And like we said, remove or eliminate those hazards. Or if there are expected hazards, then we identify those hazards and acknowledge that they exist. And maybe even mark and let people know that they exist. This is part of the protocol. That's what the health and safety system is all about. But there's a lot more to that. Tell me a little bit more about some of the requirements from a health and safety perspective. What is it that the organization is responsible for with regards to health and safety?
In Canada, every province, and actually the federal government as well, every province, there is a Health and Safety Act and a health and safety regulations that they operate under. So the Health and Safety Act is law in the country. Each province mandates that the employer has a health and safety system in place to address the hazards of the workplace. Certainly some workplaces have many more hazards, but there, as Owen said, every workplace has some inherent hazards. So the employer is obligated by law to have a safety system in place. And there are also requirements in that law as to how the committee should be structured. How many employees actually work at the site dictates what type of a committee or what type of worker representation is in place. Those workers, generally speaking, the worker should be selecting their representative. It shouldn't be the employer. that is doing that. So the employer provides the clerical needs of the committee. So a place to meet, typing or recording the meeting, taking minutes of the meeting. They do all the clerical end of it, and they have people that they choose to sit on the committee. So, or if it's just a representative, then that they work together. That's the goal of this is a joint committee. So you have union members, non-union members, working people that are involved, and the employer. And then the goal of that committee is to meet on a regular basis to identify the issues in the workplace and come up with solutions to address those workplace issues.
Ed, thank you for that. That's exactly it. That is the, I mean, there may be details.
I didn't understand that.
There may be details we're missing. There may be technicalities that or laws that, you know, beyond what you've said. But you really have filled in the entire mandate, requirement, and obligations for setting up health and safety committees. If it hasn't been done in your organization at this point, I actually believe you're in violation of the law at this point. Like you said, Ed, it is mandated. It is a law in Canada. And I believe the laws have stated the dates have passed to institute your joint health and safety committees. You may be missing members at this point, I believe, you know, but you have to have that committee and that system in place. And you've just aligned the process for us. And again, I became a health and safety member again about 5 years or so ago now. Owen, you've been at it 8 years, and you've told us why you got involved. Tell us a little bit more about what it means to you to be a rep, and why do you take that responsibility, and as I'm sure you do, quite seriously.
I want to see all my coworkers go home safe at the end of the day. That is the nuts and bolts about why I do what I do. I don't want to see somebody go through what me and many others have gone through, or deal with the memories that Ed has to deal with every day. That shouldn't happen. In this day and age, we're such a rich and sophisticated country. We should be doing better. We kill a lot of people every year at work, in the workplace. We seriously injure thousands more than the number that we kill. That's not right. That's why I speak out quite vocally about the systems in place and about the flaws with the workers' compensation system and everything else. But yeah, in my workplace, it is inherently dangerous. We deal with a lot of heavy machinery. We deal with lifting tens of thousands of pounds of steel with cranes. We deal with forklifts. We deal with a train track that comes in through our shop with the rail cars full of steel. We deal with a lot of dangers. So my job as a health and safety co-chair is to talk to the people that you work with. Find out what they feel are the hazards, and then investigate them and see if you can mitigate them in some fashion. But that's the most important key to the whole process. Talk to the people that work there. They're the people that know best what the dangers are in the workplace. If you're not working in a specific area and you don't know anything about it, you have no idea what the dangers are. You really don't. So talk to the people that work there, and they'll tell you exactly what the dangers are. And then you can, as a health and safety rep, you'll know how to investigate whether it's a legitimate danger or not, and how to mitigate it, and how to engineer something to lessen the effects of the danger. There's all kinds of things you can do, but the biggest part, again, is talk to the people there and then bring it forward to the employer and try to work with the employer to see what can be done to make the danger a little bit less.
Absolutely. And you know what? The employer is again not only mandated to do so at this point, but it's in their interest to create that safer environment. So I can't see them not working with people. They may worry about expenses.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, look, they're always going to
I
worry
would
about
say
the
the same thing.
Yeah. Look, the coworker or the owners, they're always going to worry about their bottom line. They don't want to spend money. They don't have to, right? Um, but they do have certain obligations at that point. And if we brought a concern forward and it didn't get addressed, let's go with that, Ed. If it didn't get addressed by the or by the owner, what would happen?
Well, we have. I just want to say one thing quickly. It is part of the law. It is mandated that workers have the right to know, the right to participate, and the right to refuse. Those are the rights that are written into the Occupational Health and Safety Acts in Canada for workers. So the right to know gives you the right to know what the hazard.
Is that my signal?
No, I'm still here. I think Ed's frozen.
I think we've lost Ed. But yeah, we do, thank you, Ed, for adding that. Is that we do have the right to know what the hazards are in our workplace and the process to remove them. I don't know what else his thought process was, but again, coworkers do have certain obligations. I believe one of them is that.
There's a reporting system in place. Workers' compensation in Canada has a reporting system. You would report to the regulator, and they would attend the workplace and review what the hazard was. And there's different procedures how they would deal with that. But generally, if it's a hazard and they haven't dealt with it, they would make the employer address that hazard. A little bit more to it than that, but that would be generally the way it would work. And that comes down to your right to refuse. You as the worker have the right to say, I'm not going to do something that's unsafe. And the employer is obligated then to address that issue. If they don't, you have the right to report that, and that's then addressed, right?
Absolutely, and there is such a what they call the necessary and proper clause here in Canada, where again, the employer has to do what they feel is safe in this situation to remove or eliminate the hazards. And if they haven't done so, that is actually one of the most issued charges by the Ministry of Labor for violations. So just to let people know that the owner does have certain obligations to respond to those concerns and to take necessary action to remove the hazards.
British Columbia. I'm in British Columbia, so we have a different system than most of the rest of Canada. The compensation and the Ministry of Labor in other provinces, there are two different systems. In BC, it's combined into one system. So that's a little bit different than BC than the rest of the country.
Right, because here I will say here in Ontario, the WSIB and the Ministry of Labor have had to learn how to work together. Much like brothers, they still haven't figured out. There's that sibling rivalry thing going on. So you probably have a better system out there in BC where you're able to handle the transition between workers' loss and back to work, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there are some inherent advantages to the system that most of the rest of Canada operates, but there are some advantages to the BC system. So both have an advantage for sure, but yeah, they all generally work the same. Just that BC's is in one body rather than in two separate bodies.
In any system, we can't. Nothing is ever truly perfect, right? there's always going to be flaws, and we work around those flaws. And that's what we're doing with health and safety. We're working around the flaws that have to exist. So we do inspections. Like you said, Owen, one of the greatest assets you have out there is the worker base. First of all, we go out and do these inspections. You may not be able to talk to all your coworkers because they don't work on the same shift or in the same building, but you're going out there and you're performing these proactive workplace inspections. And then you're getting an opportunity to see what these people are performing, how they're performing that job. Are they performing it unsafely? Is there some unsafe act that's not accommodated there? But also ask them. They would know that machinery that they're working on. You know what? That little piece that's just, that jagged edge that's sticking out a little bit too much. That thing that you will never know about that they see every day. Those are the things that we need to know about, but we don't get, even in inspection. So those are our 8 greatest assets. So when you go out there, Owen, what are you talking now? You come from a steel industry. What are you talking to people about? What are you asking them about? How do you get that information?
A lot of the time it's hard to get the information, but I find during the inspection, a lot of health and safety members, sorry, my son's going around, a lot of health and safety reps, when they're doing their inspections, they're focused on a checklist. Are the lights good? Yes. Are the machines logbooks done? Yes. Is the forklift tires not falling off? Yeah. And that's the wrong way to do an inspection. It truly is. Get rid of the checklist. If the employer wants a checklist done, they can do the checklist. What our job is as the worker reps is to talk to our members, talk to our fellow workers, ask them what they need to make their job safer. What are some things that you've seen that are a danger to you right now? And then it's really hard to get that out of some workers because some of the things that are dangerous make their job faster or easier. So it's a fine line you got to push there. But again, doing a checklist is the wrong way to do it. You need to be looking around at things that aren't on a checklist. You need to be looking around at, there's a bunch of wood piled in the corner there and it's about to fall over right into that workspace. That's a legitimate hazard, not whether a crane logbook is checked off or not. That's more of an administrative problem. So again, it comes down to how you talk to the worker. If your employer rep is with you, you're not going to get as much information. If you talk to your worker just one-on-one as the worker rep, you're probably going to get a little bit more information out of them. So it all depends on how you talk to them and what you're looking at, whether you're blinded by a checklist or not.
I like that. First of all, yes, we do have a checklist. We have, certain things we're looking for. But you also mentioned, look, they're going to have biases, you know what I mean, depending on who they're talking to, in what environment they're talking. Are they being accused at this moment? Or are they being, genuinely, look, what's the problem here? How do we fix it? Right? And who they're talking to is very important. Are they talking to you one-on-one where they feel confident or you're a confidant? Or do they feel that you're going to take that information, use it to hurt them in some way? You also mentioned one other thing that I find vital is the worker element, right? The human element. Like you said, some fail-safes or some operation that should be in place may make their job easier or faster. So they like it. They leave it in place. They don't want to tell you about it. Ed, you must have experienced this, your job as a health and safety rep for so long, in your experience. How do you get the buy-in? How do you get people to understand that safety element that it's for your life, your vital?
Well, that's such an important question, because I think when you have a health and safety program that is an effective health and safety program, people don't wait for the inspection to come along to tell you about the hazards, right? When the and I mean, not that we don't do inspections, we absolutely have to do inspections, but an effective program is when the workers have the confidence to report issues when they occur, so that they can be investigated and they can be dealt with. It's an important aspect of a health and safety program that when they do actually report things, that they see action. There has to be an action taken to address the issue that they've reported. And that's what builds the confidence. A failure to address a hazard reported immediately enforces in the worker that health and safety isn't as big of an issue as what the employer has said it is. So there must be action. That's the employer's responsibility, is that when a hazard's reported or incident's been reported, that it's investigated, that there's actions taken to correct it. When you have that, when workers see that, they now have the confidence that the employer actually believes they all have a safety message. You'll see them in the workplaces everywhere. Do they actually live up to that safety message? Are they committed to doing something about it? So that's, from a worker standpoint, that's when your safety program works, when they see action, they've reported something, whatever it may be, and the employer addresses it. And now they may not be able to address it immediately, but they'll give you, and that's an important aspect, is reporting back to you. You've reported something, they've taken that information down, and they come back to you and tell you what they're going to do to address it. So that's an effective safety program.
Correct. And again, that's another obligation of the CEO or the ownership, is that they have to report on what actions they are taking. Again, we as the committee compiles these inspections, maybe even makes recommendations on some of the changes that are to be made. And then it's up to the company to respond and then inform the organization through posting it, in the workplace where it can be made available or on a website, so that people have access to this information. Again, you have the right to know, as you said. So we're creating this safer workplace. The ownership puts a lot on it. Again, we haven't talked about my organization. I come from a bus driver perspective, and we deal with transportation, which is rail and bus. A very, like you said, very, very high impact industry, very dangerous, a lot of hazards on the job that are expected, and a lot of stress too. And that's what we're getting into in our next topic, is the stress and stuff that's involved with these physical issues. Again, workplace injuries, as much as we're working to eliminate them, they're still going to happen. We want to remove fatality and injury wherever possible. That's our rule. That's what we're working for. But they will still happen. And we still have to learn how to work with them or respond to them or fix the problem that occurs. But what that means is there's going to be people off work. There's going to be people who have time off, rehab to deal with, physical ailments to deal with. But when you're not at work and you're not able to perform your duties, I know it personally too. I was off work for, out of the last couple of years, I was off for a period of 6 months at a time because I have a sciatic nerve issue, which takes my back and my leg, as a driver, the driver leg, it takes it out of action. I can't use it. I can barely move myself. So I've been in a position where for 6 months at a time, I've been unable to work and perform my duties. And the anxiety and the stress that come with not being able to perform your duties, it takes a toll on you as a person. And I was on, as a man, let's go with that. We are talking about International Men's Day. And as a man, it is difficult to maintain your dignity, maintain your sense of self. Look, I'm a man. I should be, not necessarily that I have to be the breadwinner in the family, but I have to be able to provide for my family's well-being. And so we tend to have a certain level of pride. We tend to feel a certain obligation to be a man and to be able to provide. So we are going to talk about the mental aspects. I'm going to get a brief thought about that from each of you gentlemen, while I'm going to try and change to my other computer so I can broadcast our mental health expert, Stephen Whitton. So gentlemen, I'll start with Owen because you had the off work injury. Please tell us about the mental health aspects. And then Ed, if you can give us a minute or two each while I try and transfer over computers.
So, like I said earlier, the mental health part of an injury has been frowned upon for men to talk about since the beginning of time. It is now starting to turn the other way where we're making it okay for guys to talk. And that's the direction we need to be moving in. If you're hurt, if you're not feeling right, the only way you're going to get quote unquote fixed is by talking about it. It's the only way. And in my humble opinion, a mental injury such as post-traumatic stress disorder should be treated the same as a broken bone. There is no difference. So, yes, we do have pride. Yes, we do have the machismo or the whatever you want to call it, but we need to put that on the back burner. There's no place for that anymore. If you're hurt, you're hurt. One is the same as the other.
Absolutely. Ed, your thoughts?
Yeah, and it's a difficult topic, right? Mental health is a difficult topic for people to talk about. I find it interesting, as much as the last couple of years have been, such a disaster, and with the pandemic. The interesting thing with the pandemic, though, is the topic of mental health has come up so much during this pandemic that I think it makes it a little bit of an easier discussion. I think a man or a woman, there's an expectation that, you're going to suck it up and you're going to get through it. Our own personal expectation of ourselves. We're going to suck it up and we're going to get through it. But that doesn't always work. And sometimes we need to ask for help. And I think one thing with this pandemic is brought this discussion about mental health more to the forefront. And the message is continually being messaged these days, it's okay to ask for help. And I think that's such an important topic. We will all suffer. At some point in our life, we will have something that will occur that will cause mental health issues for all of us. A lot of times we work our way through it, but that doesn't always occur. And so we've got to be able to ask for that help if it's starting to become more of an issue. As a member, I was an ERT rep for the United Steel, emergency response rep for the steelworkers. So, and in that role, you're talking to people that, after some tragic event. And so the reality is that something like that occurs, whether it's to you or to a family member, it is going to affect you. If it begins to affect you where you can't deal with those issues, then you have to seek help.
Absolutely. Look, and like you said, you know what? Mental health will affect every individual on some level. And not only does it affect you, it affects individual we affect. So thank you for that. And a lot of what you said will lead into our discussion. I'm going to share our video with Stephen Whitton. He's the founder of Men Able, and we carried on a discussion about mental health in the workplace. Some of what we discussed here, and then I'll invite you gentlemen to join us again after this presentation. It's about 25 minutes. And then we'll have a little bit of a discussion about mental health and what it means. So let me see if we can share that video now.
Are you okay, RJ?
I'm working on it.
You see the share option, right? Underneath your...
Yeah, I've got that. I had the video queued, but it's not letting me play that cue, so it looks like I have to open a file.
Hey, RJ, I just want to add a little bit while you're working on that.
Sure, please.
Ask Ed. I am a big, tough steel worker that you probably wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley. But I am one of the first guys that'll talk about mental health to anybody and everybody because I've been down that road. Sucking it up and dealing with yourself, it doesn't work. I know firsthand that it doesn't work because I've tried it. It was to the point where I was either going to be divorced or other things a lot worse, until I came to that realization that it doesn't work. So if you're a big tough guy out there, put your pride aside and talk about it, because you're going down a dangerous road.
Absolutely. And that's one thing we support here in Voice of Men, is the mental health, or opening up, being able to talk about. I like to believe I'm an open book. Let me see. No, I still can't get this going.
Is it possible to send it to me?
It's a large video. Would it work?
Okay, what
Hold
you
on,
can
hold
do
on,
is like
hold on. Let me try this. Let me see where this is going. So I'm sharing now. I'm sharing me, so you're seeing you guys. But let me see if I switch to this. Can everybody see the video now?
Yeah.
So this is Stephen Whitton, co-founder of Men Able. And again, we carry on a discussion of mental health in the workplace. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we're talking about safe spaces at work. So I brought out an expert on the topic, and he is Stephen Whitton. He's the co-founder of Men Able, and his expertise is psychological safety. So he's one of the perfect experts for our topic, mental health in the workplace. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us today.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me.
Again, this is for our International Men's Day observance. We're just beginning. We're leading off with this topic. And again, mental health in the workplace is our topic that you and I are going to discuss, because that's always been important to me. That's where I began really my health and safety journey. I began to get stressed at work. The job was taking its toll on me, and before I knew it, I was in a position where I was about to lose the house, the wife, the job, everything, because it had gotten so taxing and stressful. So really, it is an important topic to me. Again, you in Merry Old England, you guys call it psychological safety is the term, and here we call it mental health. But really, the idea is about being mentally strong, or having a comfortable and healthy workplace for us socially.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit more about your expertise and what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah, I mean, we call it mental health as well.
Okay.
The difference, I suppose, that what we're about with Men Able is that we want to get an awareness out there that just like physical health, everybody has mental health. So just as you and I are sitting here today, and you're probably very in touch with any aches or pains or twinges or, whatever's going on for you physically.
Sure.
We want to get people in that same place when it comes to mental health. Now, psychological safety is that ability to be in an environment where it's okay to open up and be yourself and talk about this stuff. Because there are a myriad of things that contribute to your mental health. Some of which will be work related, much of which will be personal life, home, relationships, situation with finances, habits, compulsive behaviors, and the list goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Sexuality, for example, religion,
Mm-hmm.
culture, education, everything. So what we're on a mission to do with the psychological safety aspect is to say, well, look, organizations now have to take responsibility for people's physical safety, and the whole health and safety thing about making sure there's banisters on staircases and doorways that don't shut people's fingers in them and whatever else it might be.
Right.
Holes
Yeah.
in the road that are covered up, that sort of stuff. So let's make sure we've got the same kind of things in place for people's psychological safety, which is enabling them to have the ability to open up and be honest and talk openly about who they are and what they're about.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not sure about in England, but here in Canada, we actually group the two. Again, mental health is very important to us here. It's become probably the main topic of concern, because again, we need to have healthy workplaces in order to have healthy lives. Again, for me and for many people out there, I think what happens is the stress we experience on the job, for whatever reason. Everybody has their different stresses that go with their duties, but those can end up carried home with us. You know what I mean? And we don't think we are, but we're talking different to those people at home. We're talking, with tone to our friends and our family, those loved ones who we cherish. We're now speaking out to them in a way that really isn't conducive to our overall health, but not to the environment we want to create either.
Yeah, and that works the other way as well. People have got stuff going on at home or in their private lives, and they take it into work. And we've still very much in many places got a culture in the workplace of you leave your problems at the door when you come in. And the whole thing around psychological safety is that ability to be open and honest and sit down with your boss and have that conversation that, look, things aren't going so well in my private life at the moment, and I need some space and some time and some ability to work things out. And it's making sure that workplaces are in a position that they can accommodate that.
Yes. That was one thing I was going to mention is that, it's great to be able to encourage people to have that conversation, right? We need to be strong enough to be able to have those conversations. But there's many workplaces that aren't conducive, or they're not able to handle such requests. They're not able to manage. So how do we get around that? How do people deal with such a thing?
Well, one of the core principles of MenAble is about challenging work environments or working practices, and also culture of businesses. And we're very, very keen that when we work with an employer, that we start with the CEO. Mental health is not the responsibility of the HR department. It's not the responsibility of somebody in the business who's just ready to intervene when someone has a crisis. If you're the CEO, if it's your name above the door, it's your responsibility. End of. And it's down to you to create the culture and the environment. And it comes down to little things. I've had numerous conversations with CEOs where I've said to them, look, you're happy to send out an email at 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning. What message does that send to your workforce? Because many of them are then thinking, oh, in order for me to get on in this business or to be recognized or to be like my boss, I've got to do the same.
I've got to be available 24/7, which
exactly. And those CEOs have then said, oh, wow, never thought of that, because that's actually not what I intended. It's just Sunday morning is the time where I can catch up on some of the admin. Okay, well, that's absolutely cool, but have you really communicated that message across your business? Well, no, I haven't. Well, there you go. That's the first step, is make sure your people are aware that just because you're doing that doesn't mean that they're expected to do the same. Because if you don't do that, suddenly you've created an element of culture that's unfortunate and wasn't an intended outcome. But now all of a sudden you're putting people under pressure, or actually they're putting themselves under pressure because, if they don't have the psychological safety to come and say to you, RJ, do you mind if I just have a quick word? You send me an email on a Sunday morning. Do you expect me to respond on Sunday morning, or am I okay to leave that till Monday? I'm not sure that when I was employed, that if I could have gone and had that conversation with any of my bosses.
That's exactly it. So, and we want to be brave. We want to stand up for ourselves. But then there's always what happens if I talk to my boss? Even as gentle as you just delivered it, that may have repercussions, even though you're trying to, deal with your own safe environment.
Yeah, exactly. And, and then you throw into the mix, well, actually, you've got an individual who has got relationship issues going on outside of work. Perhaps they've got a sick child or sick parents, or they've got financial worries. They've got some compulsive behaviors going on. That list just goes on and on and on, so do we have that psychological safety that I can walk into my boss and say, look, things aren't so great for me outside of work. I need to talk to you. And this is what's going on, because our little mantra is, positive employee outcomes equals positive customer outcomes, and that equals positive business outcomes.
Oh, I love that. I know that's the Virgin way too. So I do love that. I've been trying to preach that at my organization too. Let's take care of our employees. Let's, make them the star, because then they'll take care of the customer. They will, you know what I mean? 100%. Just by in the, sense of their feeling of belonging.
Yeah.
They will take care of the rest of the company. Right. So it's a culture that, I don't know why more organizations don't embrace it, but it's a culture that could lead us towards that better environment that we're looking for.
Well, I've got a bit of a theory on that, and that is that when I run a workshop, I write 4 words on the flip chart, and those words are target, strategy, people, customer experience, and it's in that order. And what I would generally say is that the model that you as a business recognize, that you have targets. So in order to reach those targets, you as a management team work out what the strategy is. Then you make sure that the people are in the right places and they're trained and recruited and so on. And then an outcome is customer service.
Right.
And we get them to look at that and we say to them, what's wrong with that list? And then after a few minutes, the penny will drop and they'll say, it's upside down. I go, absolutely. Start with turn it on its head. Let's start with customer experience.
Yes.
And let's get the people experience right. Then your strategy and your targets will actually take care of themselves.
Without a doubt. It's that strategy that, again, could take us to the future. So I thank you for bringing that one up. And I'm not saying I work for the greatest organization. They all have their flaws. But I've been studying occupational health and safety, again, as a matter of my future protocol. And everything I'm studying, my company appears to be a good representation of. So as if they built the model based on these training programs, right? These occupational health and safety regulations. So we have created an environment that really, we call it the safety culture, that really is, we'd like to believe, conducive to employee safe environments. But it's not always perfect. There's the human error or the human element to deal with. Like we have direct supervisors, direct reports, who have their own thoughts or biases that they have to deal with. How can they handle that? How can people handle that?
Well, I think for me, that boils down to one word, and it's understanding, and there's a massive movement going on at the moment. Certainly in the UK, I'm part of some task forces on this. And I know in the US as well, I'm guessing in Canada, it's huge. And that's the whole diversity and inclusion piece, and that critically is about understanding. And for us at MenAble, we're banging the drum saying, look, for diversity and inclusion, there is a mental health angle. you know, and the angle in, you know, we're predominantly focused on the automotive industry, and that industry has a long lasting culture and legacy of people who recruit in their own likeness. And you know, I don't hold back when I say you go into most car dealerships or stores, and you will find that they are predominantly managed and run and staffed by white middle-aged guys. You know, and a part of the reason for that is because they are target driven, objective driven, and actually when that's the priority, when recruitment issues come up, we have to act quickly and get somebody in place. So it's very, very easy to reactively recruit in our own likeness, and therefore we're not prepared to take a risk. We're not prepared to sit back and go, actually, who would be a better person, you know, or not to be actively discriminating, but certainly to be looking at it from a wider perspective. And so what we end up with, certainly in that industry, is this kind of revolving door of the same people just doing the rounds between dealership and dealership, you know, because, you know, that's what we're used to. And throw in the mix of that, what you then have as well, and we notice this, and it's only when you step back and observe it, that a lot of managers actually lack confidence, and they lack their own self-esteem and their own feeling of self-worth, you know. And it's very easy to sound like we're being critical, and we're not at all. We're actually saying, look, let's cut these people some slack. You know, I was a manager in a car dealership, and I was dropped into that role with no training, no development. I was over promoted and underdeveloped, and I was left to get on with it. You know, now I was lucky. You know, I'm very much in touch with my feminine side, which means that I've got a lot of empathy, but I was surrounded by men of a similar age who weren't as lucky as that. And, you know, it just, you look at it and you think, well, yeah, it's fairly obvious why you've got a staff turnover problem, or you've got a morale issue, or you've got people who make complaints about you, or whatever it might be.
Absolutely. I remember at our organization, again, we've cleaned house in the last, you know, a few years ago. Our you know, organization at the top is pretty much cleaned out. Because again, like you say, it was the same people just climbing the ladder. You know what I mean? The same people moving up, creating the same culture that wasn't working, doing the same thing over and over. And I will say our CEO came in, and he was safety oriented. That was his passion as well. And now I will say, our organization is now a safety culture organization. Health and safety is top priority, like I said, or mental health is top priority. How do we create that elsewhere? How do we get that buy-in, not just from CEOs, but management and employees as well?
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I mean, I'm starting to sort of get out and about and do a few more keynotes on this very subject, and I've got one called "People Before Profit: Wellbeing Seat in the Boardroom." And what that means is that first and foremost, well-being. You know, let's call it that. You know, mental health, psychological safety. Let's put it all under the heading of well-being. That is a boardroom responsibility. You know, so if your tendency in your business is to go, oh, that's something HR look after. Well, there's your first thing you've tripped up on.
Passing the
right? Yeah, because this is a boardroom responsibility to create the right culture and environment within your business that people can feel that they are safe to be who they actually are. Then that trickles down through the business in the form of understanding and empathy. And, you know, a lot of the businesses that we're working with, as I said, predominantly automotive industry, you know, many of them have a history of having promoted people, you know, again, in their own likeness. And you go around businesses, there's a lot of, you know, challenges with the people who are in sort of management positions. And, you know, again, we use empathy and we go, okay, all right, well, no one's criticizing anyone here. What we're actually saying is, are you a manager? Have you ever had any kind of development in the area of emotional intelligence, empathy, compassion, understanding? And they go, well, no, because I'm a manager and I'm here to manage the process.
Right.
And our response to that is, no, you're not. If you've got a manager in your title, you're managing people. Your job is people. Your job is not process. You know, I mean, I say this to our friends in the US quite a lot, because the dealer stores over there are, you know, and there's a lot of training goes on around You know, what the Americans call process, we call it process in the UK. And I said, no, it's not. If you're a manager, your job is not process.
Yeah.
It's people.
Yeah.
You know.
And I've always known that a supervisor or a manager's role is to make operations happen. They're there to help. They're cogs in the wheel, right? They're there to help the machine run. But they're there to well, put it this way. You mentioned it just now, development, training. It is the CEO and the senior management's responsibility to make sure, look, this is the culture we want to have in the organization. This is what we expect of you. You know what? We're going to allow our employees to have that mental day if they need it, or to have a week if they need to deal with their kids or an elderly parent. You know what I mean? These are things that people have to deal with in their lives. And it's up to the senior management to train or teach people the culture that is expected within this environment.
Yeah, 100%. And we go a step further with that as well. And we say, you know, this isn't about box ticking. You know, this is not about putting people on a training course to show them what to look out for in the event that someone reaches a crisis. I mean, I'll give you an example. We use a car rev counter or a tachometer as an analogy. And what we talk about with that is that when a car is running, you know, a normal petrol or diesel car, when it's running at its most optimum, then that's running at 2,500 revs per minute. So, you know, let's use that as the benchmark of where we should all be. Put the pressure on, increase the gas, and those revs go up. Now, a lot of what companies do is they put programs in place that kick in to help an employee when those revs get into the red zone, when they get into the 8, 9, or 10 out of 10. Yeah. And that's when the employee is then expected to reach out to that program and say, now I need help. It's got too far. I need some help. Before I get to the point of seriously considering doing something unpleasant, I really am now in crisis. Our approach is to say, okay, well, what about the many, many people that are in the 3 through 7 zone on that 1 to 10 counter? Yeah. So you and I are sitting here now, we're at 2, 2.5, you know, but actually it wouldn't take much for something to happen for us to go to a 3 or a 4 or a 6.
Correct.
You know, and then back down again. And this happens every day. And so what we're doing is saying, what's going on in your business that's causing these revs to go up, down, up, down, up, down?
And you know what? That's exactly it. Health and safety is the exact same purpose, right? To not be corrective actions, but be proactive measures. Let's fix these things before they become a problem that's going to cost us all of this. Same thing with the mental health or the social environment. We're creating that environment where let's see where we can help these people, remove these issues from their life, remove that stress that's going to take them to a 5, you know, and let them lead normal lives, or as normal as we can make it here in this environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're funnily enough, I mean, as simple as that analogy is, we're getting a lot of traction with that. And I'm getting messages now from people who've said, you know, that rev counter was, in fact, one of my ambassadors wrote to me last week and said that rev counter actually saved his life one day last week. Because he recognized that he'd shot up to a 6 or a 7, took some time out, sat down with his line manager and said, look, this is what's going on for me. You know, I just want to, you know, just need some time out. And that's not necessarily time out as in, you know, go and have a walk around the park and count the clouds. You know, it's not that kind of time out. It's time out in terms of just support me, just help me, just understand that, you know, don't put any pressure on me sort of for the next hour or two while I just kind of ease off a little bit. And the manager sat down and had a conversation with him. And, you know, by the end of the day, he said that he'd gone from he'd started the day at a 3, it got to a sort of 7, nearly an 8 at one point. And by the end of the day, he was back down to a 4.
And because we can control the environment, right?
Just through talking and exactly that, controlling the environment. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. You've helped me realize it. I love this tachometer analogy because, again, you know what? When we see it, when we can see it revving, you know what I mean? you remember on the cartoons, you'd see the meter going up, and all of a sudden the steam blows off. You know what I mean? That's exactly what we're talking about. The pressure gets too high, and but when we see that tachometer, when we're visualizing it, we can now go, hey, wait a minute, I'm getting a little elevated. I need to walk away. I need to take a break. Something needs to change right now in order for me to calm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you went out and bought a brand new car, let's assume it's still a petrol or a diesel car, would you drive it constantly for the next 3 years at 6,000-7,000 revs all the time?
Not at all.
You may well do, but there's going to be a mechanic who's going to say to you at some point, man, you're not really treating this car very well. You need to, ease off the gas.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much lubrication we can give it.
It's going to require a lot of maintenance at the same time to keep it going.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
yeah.
So let's think of that as our physical being, right? We're going to require a lot of maintenance. If we keep treating ourselves this way, we're going to require a lot of maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this has been an amazing discussion all around, again, health and safety, the social, the environment, the psychological element to it. It's been fantastic. We've left people with some amazing techniques and advice. What would you like to leave us with at this point? Again, we're talking mental health in the workplace, creating safe environments. What would you like to say?
I think the key thing is communication. It's the ability to speak out, to recognize that, we say it's the whole kind of it's okay to not be okay. But quite often that's a sort of throwaway statement that not many people buy into. But it genuinely is, a true thing. And what we would encourage is as many people as possible to reach out. We use an ethos in Menable called shoulder to shoulder. And what we're not expecting is to sheep dip people through a training program or get them qualified in this subject or anything like that. It's just literally to do what you and I, RJ, have just done, which is, to metaphorically on a Zoom, we've been shoulder to shoulder, haven't we? Even though we're thousands of miles apart.
Absolutely.
Just literally, yeah, exactly. I mean, look at that reaction. You know what I mean? It just has a great reaction of
absolutely.
We support each other.
Changer.
Yeah, it is. It is, and that's what we need to do. But it's got to start somewhere. And ask somebody, "How are you?" And the second part of that question is, "No, how are you?"
Yes. Yes, I will say that. How many times do we say to somebody, how's life or how's it going?
Mm-hmm.
And we really don't want to know, right? We just want to hear, oh, it's fine. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. Or, same, whatever, different day,
That's the answer we want. But truthfully, the answer we need is, how is your life going?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that truly is going to open up your environment totally, and definitely your workplace, where you may be affecting your employees, your fellow coworkers, unknowingly or unwittingly. So we want to stress that. So
yeah, and we very much say with all the organizations we work with, to the CEO, who have you got in your business that would put their head round the door and forget your job title, forget the stripes and the position, and actually ask you as a human being how you are? And most of the CEOs come back and go, that's a really good question. I don't think I've got anyone. And we say, right, there's your first place to start. What is that saying about your culture? That they don't necessarily live in fear of you, but there's something around the hierarchy and and I'm not talking about respect here. I'm talking about just human to human.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you. That is some amazing advice. Stephen Whitton, co-founder of Menable. You've been amazing guest. You've left us with this amazing wisdom. Again, safe spaces at work, mental health in the workplace, an important topic. So thank you for bringing it out here today.
You're a star. We love what you're doing, even from over here. So keep up the good work, and look forward to supporting you however we can.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
You take care. Thank you.
So again, that was Stephen Whitton. And again, the topic was safe or mental health in the workplace. We've had a great interview. I thought it was invaluable. Again, topic important to me. It's what set me off on my journey. We talked about some amazing things. Owen, I wanted to hear from you again. Like you mentioned it earlier, and we didn't get to discuss it with Stephen. Is that mental health aspect that comes with being off work or having to deal with that injury long term? Would you love to fill us in a little bit more about what that might be like?
So for me, sorry, I'm taking my son to the dentist now. For me, the biggest part for me was being off work and losing that sense of identity. And then while I was off, my wife was also on maternity leave. So there was that part of it where we were already on a limited income. And now we're even more on a limited income because I'm off work. Workers' compensation, of course, kicked in, but it wasn't the same. There was a lot of things in my head, like I'm a social person, but I couldn't go into public spaces without being very nervous. It just something I couldn't do at that time. Going back to work, looking at the equipment that I got hurt with, the first time I went in, I had to turn around and walk away. I couldn't even look at the equipment. And those parts of coming back from a traumatic injury, people don't see, people don't realize, people don't even think about. And for me, it was way worse than any of the physical injuries. The physical injuries, it's just, okay, it's a couple of broken bones that heal, or there's some bruising that'll get better. There's some scarring. Yeah, I'll learn to live with the scarring. Makes me look badass. But the mental part of it is the side that some people never get over that. I don't know if I'll ever get over it completely, but it got to the point where I tried to suck it up. I tried to, quote unquote, be the man. I tried all that stuff and it didn't work. As I alluded to earlier, I was either going to be divorced, my wife told me so, or I was going to give up on everything. And that is such a waste from anybody. When you're to that point where you are ready to just say, F it, that's a waste. We need to do better in this day and age in our society. We need to do better. There's a lot of valuable members of society. Everybody's a valuable member of society. There's some people that if they can recover from something like that, they'll turn into a public speaker and they'll help a lot of other people going through the exact same things. Even if they just get to the point where they can deal with their own life, that's a win. But by not even trying as a society to help those people, as by using the stigma around mental health, that's what I preach about all the time. That stigma is such a bullshit stigma, excuse my language, but it is. That whole stigma around mental health needs to disappear completely. It has no place in today's society. If you're hurt, a mental injury or a physical injury, you're hurt. Get the help that you need to get better. As Stephen said, and I've said this in a lot of speeches I'm given, it's okay not to be okay. It truly is okay not to be okay. Work on it and get better.
Absolutely. Thank you, Owen. Thank you for giving us your perception of what it's like for men. Again, we have that, regardless of the stigmas, we still have that I'm a man and I have a certain level of provision to offer. And we have to be able to produce that. Otherwise, we don't get to feel like men. As much as we want to remove these stigmatisms,
being a man still requires a certain level of pride and dignity. We try to go beyond that. But again, we do need to be able to support people like you when we're coming back, to workplace, especially from an injury, but even not in an injury. Like Stephen mentioned, there's still life issues that come up where we have to deal with. You have your children you're responsible for them. You have to take care of them. What's happening in their life affects your life. Your elderly parents who are, transitioning from homes, their home life, they're not able to stabilize anymore. These affect your life. So not just the physical injury aspect, but other aspects of life that affect the mental health. I think we pay attention to it here in Canada. We're doing justice to it. But like you say, like people like yourself raising that voice and raising the topic and raising the awareness.
And RJ, on that, whether you have a mental issue going on or not doesn't make you any less of a man. I want to make that very, very clear. You can still have your man identity. You can still be whatever you think you are and have a mental injury of some kind. The two do not mate with each other. They don't mix. One does not have anything to do with the other. That needs to be the strong message going forward.
Absolutely. And as Stephen mentioned, every single one of us will have some mental issue or illness to deal with on some level in our lives. More than likely, more than once. So thank you, Owen, for that. Ed, what do we do for people like Owen to support them coming back to work? How do we help them through that?
Well, that's one of the most interesting questions that we have to deal with. The reality is that an injury, whether it be physical, will cause some mental aspects, right? You wonder what you could have done different. You're thinking about the injury. You're thinking about all the things. When you get coming back to the workplace, it's an important aspect of bringing a worker back into the workplace. There's lots of things that we can do. The Health and Safety Committee, it's important to have a return to work program, where your employer, if you're a unionized workplace, somebody from the Health and Safety Committee that is there to connect that worker back to their workplace. Because depending in an Owen situation, that was a severe injury. So coming back into the workplace, there's trauma involved in returning to a place that has caused you to have a serious injury, has caused all these issues in your life. So returning back to the workplace is another trauma. You're now experiencing another trauma. So for the employer and the workers to have a committee, a return to work committee that works with, you need to work with the worker, the worker's doctor, the employer, and members of the Health and Safety Committee to ensure that you're returning this worker back into a workplace that they can return to. Make sure. And in some cases, workers are injured to the point where they may not be able to do all the aspects of their job. They can return, but they aren't fully able to do all the aspects of their job. You need to have an accommodation to help that worker. And eventually, maybe they can return back to their full duties. Maybe they can't. But yet, it is a combined effort with the worker, the medical community, the employer, to work together to ensure that this worker. That's one of the biggest problems that we have in Canada, or we've had in Canada, is this aspect of accommodation for injured workers, whether those injuries are physical or mental, is that aspect. There is some movement in this country to ensure, and we have the human rights tribunals that have dealt with many of these cases where workers were not accommodated and returning back to work. So we're doing better, but there is a long way to go in this aspect. It needs to be joint. It needs to be a group effort to get this worker back to work.
Absolutely. And one of the issues too, I'll relate it to my wife. Again, she's, we brought some physical strong men to talk about this, health and safety in the workplace, but women too. Again, she deals with office and in her work, and she feels guilty that she's not able to go out and perform her full duties. Some days she has to go home after 3 hours of work. So yes, it's great to have that return to work process in place. But like you said, it's a give and take between the management and the worker to ensure that this return to work process is working and accommodate it if it's not. Again, my wife, 3 hours, she cannot work anymore. She's got intense pressure, can't handle the duties that she's expected to perform. So these do happen. People have to deal with them. This is part of life. This is part of our existence. So
RJ, one of the things when we have conversations with people, one of the conversations that we have is, that's an easy conversation for us to have. Oh, what do you do for a living? And we are very connected to what we do for a living. We like to talk about what we do and not, but when you've been injured and you're unable to do your, what do I do for a living? That has a profound effect on our ability, because it is such a massive component of our life. We spend more time at our work generally than we do at any other task that we do. So when you've lost that, you've lost a piece of your identity. You've lost your ability to talk about something that it is a major component. And so, yes, absolutely, there is guilt involved in the fact that first you got hurt. You feel guilty about that. The fact that you're now back to work and you can't actually do what you used to do, and now somebody has to help you, you feel guilty about that. So these are aspects, that are definitely affect your mental health. Injuries do more than hurt you physically. Injuries hurt you mentally, and that is the aspect. And I think one of the things that we're seeing in Canada today with compensation systems in Canada is they're having to recognize that the fact that a physical injury is going to cause a mental injury as well too, and that there needs to be an aspect of that included in helping a worker recover from an injury.
absolutely. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that. I'm a prime example of that. Look, I tell people I'm a bus driver by profession. In fact, I'm no longer a bus driver. Again, I'm a bus driver. It's all I've ever known. I've taught, but now I'm not able to perform that duty. So I tell people I'm not a bus driver anymore. It's almost no longer a part of my being. So and that's exactly it. We lose a sense of being when we lose that sense of what we've done for the last 15, 20 years, who's really been a part of our life. So gentlemen, thank you so much. We've had an amazing discussion. I know, Owen, you are inside a building, but I would like, if you guys could, to add again, what are your thoughts? We've talked about safe spaces at work, and we put on a great presentation. What would you like to leave people with today? I'll start with Owen, just so you can get it done, and then we'll move to Ed.
Safe spaces at work. We need to be the voices going forward. We need everybody and anybody that will listen to make it okay to talk about whatever you want to talk about. No judgment. If you're not feeling tip top one day, tell somebody about it that you trust. And that person that you're talking about it with needs to be understanding, needs to create a safe space. It doesn't mean they have to agree with you. Doesn't mean they have to help you, because they may not know how. They may not have the training. But they need to be able to listen and just give you an ear. Sometimes that's all somebody needs. It's just an ear to talk into. That's the biggest thing for me going forward. When I came back to work, I got comments like, "Oh, here comes L Hook Owen," which is the hook that hit me in the head. Or my health and safety manager going, "Yeah, thanks for ruining our record. We were on a good streak." Those kinds of comments have no place. We need to make it safe, and we need to make it an understanding workplace where people are not scared to open up. When we make that a scary thing, it won't happen. And we'll keep going down the same revolving door that we've been going around since the beginning of time. We need to change that.
Owen, thank you very much for that. You've been a great guest. Ed, again, what are your thoughts? Safe spaces at work, creating safe environments, health and safety at work.
I want to just kind of echo a little bit what Owen said there. It's communication. We need to actively communicate all the issues that we're experiencing at our workplace. Like I said earlier, we spend more time at work doing that task than we probably do any other task. So it is important for us to, speak up about what's going on in our workplace. And it's important for us to listen to others in our workplace about what their issues are. So yeah, it's communication. I totally agree. There's a transition. There's a lot of young people coming into our workplaces, and we need to, the comment about common sense. You don't develop that common sense until you've actually experienced something. And from that experience, you develop some understanding. So it's important for us to communicate. It's important for us to, talk about the issues that are in our workplace. And it's important to help the young people coming into our workplace understand that they have a place that they fit in and that we will help them fit in. I think I agree with Owen. We've got to communicate. The issues we need to talk about in our workplace are important. It needs to be safe for us to talk about them.
Absolutely. Again, thank you, gentlemen. Again, they're our workplace, right? It's up to us as individuals to make it what we want it to be. And that requires communication, like we're talking about. Training. Dr. Phil says we teach people how to treat us, right? That's what it's all about. Letting people know that this is what is expected and this is how we perform to those expectations. That is the job of the CEO or the ownership, as we've said. But it's also the job of us as individuals to make that workplace exactly what it is. Gentlemen, we've had some great conversations. My guests today were Owen Goodwin, Occupational Health and Safety Rep for United Steelworkers Local 2009. Ed Kent, he is the Health and Safety and Environment Coordinator for United Steelworkers, District 3. We had Stephen Whitton, founder of Men Able, and myself, RJ Horner, Vice President for Voice of Men 360, Occupational Health and Safety Rep for ATU 1587. Again, these are what we're looking for in your workplace. Again, you saw the reason why we take it passionately to create a safer workplace for not just ourselves, but our co-workers, creating that safer environment. It's our combined responsibility, each and every one of us. So we've taken it seriously. We've shown you why it's taken seriously. And I think we've achieved our mission today of showing you safe spaces at work. So gentlemen, thank you for being part of that presentation. And we're amazed with what we've been able to produce for people today and show them that occupational health and safety and this new joint health and safety committee is really, it's not as difficult or overwhelming as it may seem. It really is about looking out for those hazards, eliminating them from that environment, or being able to manage the hazards that we have to deal with. And we've talked about that mental health is really a big part of that process. We have to pay attention to that. I think we do a good job here in Canada, but there are other places around the world that don't get to do it. I think another thing, I will just mention it, we didn't get to discuss it, but we talk about organizations and the regulations and the obligations, but there are many cash job operations. There are many under the table organizations, and they get neglected because they're not looking out for the health and safety of their workers. They're not putting into place a joint health and safety committee. I want you guys to realize, if you take on a job like this, you're not getting the attention you deserve. You're not getting that representation that you need. You're not going to get attention to your physical safety or your mental health. So I would recommend you don't get involved in that sort of thing, but we all have to make choices, and those are the sacrifices you're going to have to make. But I believe it's vital to have health and safety in your life. I believe in creating safer environments. I believe in the purpose we've put together here. So I want to thank everybody who's been a part of this in putting it on. We put on a great presentation today. We're putting on a great presentation for the rest of the week. I want to remind you that we have several exciting shows coming up. I'll just run through the lineup quickly again. Today, again, I had Safe Spaces at Work. I hope you enjoyed that presentation. Join us tomorrow at 12 to 1:30, where Mathusa Kalamanan discusses global barriers of well-being experienced by immigrant male youth. On Monday at 8 to 9:30 a.m., November 15th, Releasing Transgenerational Trauma with Dave Rogers. On Tuesday, November 16th, 1 to 2:30 p.m., we have the Authors Circle with our host, Joe Groh. Please join us for that. Wednesday, November 17th, from 7 to 8:30, we have Indigenous Men's Self-Care and Well-Being. And then on Thursday, November 18th, 10 to 11:30, we have Exploring American Boys' Challenges and Successes in Schools with our host, Dr. Andrew Smiler. And then wrap it up on International Men's Day, November 19th, at 7 to 8:30 p.m., where we discuss men with dreams and challenges. That really is about discussing your future. So please join us for that one. Before we wrap it up with a celebration, a meet and greet, please join our speakers. We invite everybody to come and join us for that. 8:30 to 10 p.m., Friday, November 19th, International Men's Day, where we wrap up this presentation and go over some of the amazing conversations and connect with all the people we've discussed and met with over International Men's Day. So I thank everybody for joining me for that. Once again, I want to thank everybody who's been involved in this International Men's Day. Again, I'm RJ Horner, Vice President for Voice of Men 360, asking you to open up.
RJ,
Yep.
can you quickly go through the list of those shows, our regular shows?
Oh, you want me? Okay, yeah, sure. Okay.
Please.
Yep.
Thanks.
So, folks, of course, we have some great programming. First, I want to thank everybody involved in the Indigenous Families Donation Drive. Thank you to our own Christy White for helping to coordinate that. But thank you for everybody who's been involved in that. We created some amazing donations and some community relations there. So thank you for everybody who's been involved in that. It's been an amazing initiative. Today will be the last day we've implemented that. So thank you for that. And we'll be moving forward with some other amazing initiatives in the future. But of course, we have several live programming. I'm the host for Open Up, where we invite people to share their personal life journey. And that's a live talk show every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time is Open Up. And then we have Vili, a Tamil language live talk show Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, it's just like Open Up, but in Tamil language. Vili means I. And we host a monthly webinar the first Saturday of every month, where we bring out organizations to discuss a particular topic of interest to them. We host a special monthly show called The Unspoken Tears, the second Saturday of every month at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The focus is domestic violence against men, bullying, male sexual abuse, trauma, and human trafficking. We discuss those topics here in Voice of Men 360. We host a show with the South Asian Men's Group, we hosted South Asian Men's Show with the All Bengal Men's Forum, and that takes place 11:30 to 12:30 Eastern Time, the second or the third Sunday of every month. And again, the topic is issues facing South Asian men. And then we turn all of our content into podcast episodes. Please like us or follow us on all of your favorite platforms, Spotify, Google Play, iPhone, and more. We host some support groups here. The first one is for men for men only. We want men to feel comfortable in discussing their issues. So we want to invite you to the Open Up Men's Peer Group every second Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Please register through Zoom. Then we have an Indigenous peer-to-peer support group. We call this one Pass the Talking Stick. It takes place the fourth Friday of every month, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. through Zoom. And then there's no limitations with gender, age, or nationality with participating in our programming. All walks of life are invited to participate. If you want to be a guest on any of our shows, or if you're willing to be a part of our organization, whether directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We're looking to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, governments, NGOs, and more. Our phone number, if you want to reach out, is 437-889-8329. Email us info@voiceofmen360.org, which makes our website www.voiceofmen360.org. You can follow us on all of your favorite platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on YouTube. And then don't forget about us on Facebook, where we can interact. Visit us at our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/voiceofmen360. And we are looking to increase our numbers, to raise the voice, share the message out there, and continue to raise the voice. Once again, I'm RJ Horner, Vice President of Voice of Men 360, asking you to open up.